Hello friends, today in this live stream we will be talking about that how to make a CRUD kind of a application inside the browser. So basically we will be interacting with the DOM, we will be performing DOM manipulation. So basically inside this we will be creating a new folder here which will be DOM manipulation, and basically I will say go to this folder. So we will open this inside our code editor, guys. So here we will be simply be making index.html file here, and basically I will change the title to DOM manipulation in JavaScript. So if you're watching it for the very first time, guys, please hit the like button, subscribe the channel. So we will try to make a CRUD kind of an application where you can create record, update record, delete record, and also read record. So basically here we will be having first of all a heading which is CRUD app in JavaScript. So if you open this now, guys, you will now see CRUD app in JavaScript. Basically we will align this heading in the center position. So we will have a style attribute. We will align it in the center position. Text align property. So it will be right here in the center. So basically, guys, here we will be having a simple input field here. We will have a simple form. So here we will be giving a ID to it of form, and inside this we will have input type text, and here we will be creating a record here. So we will be giving a ID to it of record, and basically this will be required by default. And after this, guys, we will have a simple button to create a record like this, or what you will say is that we can simply change it, the ID here. I can change this ID to username as well. And also, guys, we will be including the JavaScript file here, script.js. So here we will be creating a script.js file in the root directory, and basically what we will be doing is that basically we will be targeting the form by its ID, which is called, let me target this, so form document.query selector, and here we will be passing the form ID. So basically, guys, after this what we will doing is that we need to attach the form add event listener here. So basically when the form submits here, basically what we need to do is that we need to, so basically, guys, you will see this is a form here. It contains this input field of username, and then we have this button out there which will actually create the record for us. So basically whenever you click this button, it will actually create the record. If you refresh your application, you will see a button. This is a button here. So what we can say is that we can turn off the autocomplete. So autocomplete to off. And basically whenever this form submits, guys, we need to execute this function which is prevent default. So if you write something here, click on create record. Now we need to create this record here, basically right here. So we are performing this, attaching this submit event handler, guys. You can see that on the form, and here we will be getting the username, whichever username the user writes here. So here we can simply use document.query selector, and here we have given the ID to the username field here. If you see, we have given this ID username. Now to get the value, we will simply write here dot value. So this will get the actual value which the user writes. So here basically, guys, now what we need to do is that we need to create a variable where we will be displaying these results. So basically here we will be displaying it, the result here, inside a table like structure. So whenever we click this, guys, if you see, whenever we click the create record button, I need to create a new entry. So here I will simply say div. We will create a new record here, create element, and here we will be creating a new div here, and we will be attaching the ID to it. So we will attach ID, unique ID to it of the actual username which is typed here. So here we will be giving the ID here, username. So after this, guys, we need to insert the inner HTML here basically. So the inner HTML will be equal to the actual username. And now, guys, we need to add this to the DOM. So here we need to add this to the DOM here. So now to add this, we will simply write here document dot body append child. We will append this div here. So now what will happen, guys, if you closely look here, if I write the name John here, click on create record, you will see John will be added. If I write here Kane, you will see Kane will be added. So you can see that we are dynamically adding this. So video quality is low, Rahil is saying. No, video quality is fine. Can you tell me, guys, in the comment section? Rahil is saying that video quality is low. If the video quality and the sound quality you are experiencing any low, you can tell me in the comment section. I will tweak the settings of OBS Studio. If you are experiencing any sort of lag or issue, you can tell me in the comment section. I don't think so there is a quality issue. So all the things are doing fine here. So please hit that like button. So you will see that, guys, basically if you see in the document, in the DOM manipulation, if you see, you can add as many records as you want, like this. So if you see here, if you check the DOM here, basically in the element section we have provided this div a unique ID, that is, you can see that. So in this way we have attached it. So here, first of all, by creating this, guys, we will simply check if username already exists. So basically what we will say is that we will create a brand new array here basically of used usernames. This will be empty by default. So whenever we create a new username, we will be pushing this entry here. So we will what we will say is that we will push this entry, used usernames, push, and actual username. So here we will first of all check here if basically here we will filter out, or here we will be using the for each loop here, used username. So for each username we will check here, guys, basically if we will have a if condition here. If the username is equal to, the past username, like this, we will simply write here user, make this as user. So in this case we will return, and basically we will just alert it, the user, that the username already exists, like this. Please hit the like button, subscribe the channel as well, guys. So after this, if all the situation is correct, then obviously it is a unique username. We will push it inside our used username array, like this. Here also replace it. So now, guys, if you refresh your application, if you type here John is unique, so it will be created. If you once again want to create John, you will see the username already exists. You can't create John username. So why it is creating it? Let me see, guys. I think what we need to do is that basically the we need to wrap it inside a if condition. So here we need to have a wrap this. So basically check username exist, we will be having this function. Basically it will return either true or false, so we will be wrapping it inside a if condition. So if it returns false, if it returns true, then we will simply say the username already exists. And basically if it returns false, then we will simply wrap this code inside this else block like this. So now we need to define this function, guys, which is check username exists. So here you can simply paste this code here, that's it. For each username we will check it. So here we need to pass the username here inside this function, which is like this. So here we will be expecting this user like this. So now if you refresh your application, guys, if you type here John, which is a unique username, it will get created. If you insert it for the second time, then it will tell you the username already exists. But it still get why it is saying that? Let me see, guys. Oh, sorry. We need to return true, guys. Here, return true. It's return a boolean value. So if all done is done, we can simply say it's a unique username. We can return false here like this. So you can see that, guys, it is returning a boolean value. If the username already exists, then it will return true. In that case, this alert statement will be shown. If it returns false, then it will get added to the DOM. So now what will happen now, basically if you write here John, which is a unique username, it will get added. If you add it for the second time, why it is adding it for the second time, I don't think so. John, second time. Uh, let me see, guys. Basically what we are telling is that if you see, we are passing this, the user already exists. So basically we need to wrap this inside a else condition. Can't use returns in for each function. What you are telling? Thomas is saying can't use returns in for each function, but you can see we are returning true here. So in this case you can see that if you console log the user, and basically if you return true here, the control shifts to this function like this. So here we can say username exist. Wouldn't the return true return to end of that function? So that's exactly what we want. Basically here we are checking for each username, we are checking that if the username does exist inside this array, uh, we need to return out of this. Try putting a console log after the for each block before the false and see what happens. Yeah, I'm just troubleshooting it, just wait. So basically what we are saying that, let me insert it John here, click create record. If you create it for the second time, you can see John is printed out, but this alert statement is printing out so that this function is calling, but it still gets added to the DOM. So this is coming through this statement here. You can see this is called here console log user. So John is there. If you see here, if I just say here console log used usernames, if I call it here, so basically humor me and put a console log on line 41. Line 41. Here you are telling what console log? Let me write here John here. Create record. You will see that. So you can see basically it is returning false here. This console log is printing out because it is get added to the DOM here. And once again, this time you will now see the username already existed, so true value was returned. So you will see that now this value doesn't get printed out. If you print it for the third time, you will now see John is still there. But it was printed out though. So what I need to do is that basically if the username is equal to user, then what we need to do here is that if you want to return true here, I think the return statement doesn't work in the uh, username exit. This statement is not executing it. If you closely look here, basically if I show here, if I write here John, create record, basically you will see the statement is executed. It was a unique record, but so here this statement is not executing. We are passing the user, but still this return true is not executing it. So we need to, I think we need to shift this, we need to make a use of a flag variable. So I need to basically just put it to false. And basically if this condition occurs, we need to simply say flag is equal to true, and then we need to break out of this loop. So we need to break out of it. I think break doesn't work here. So here we can simply say return. So flag is equal to true, and later on we will just compare this value. So basically here we can compare, if flag is equal to true, then we will simply return true, and in the else block we can simply say return false. So now I think this will, or we can simply return the flag value. I think that return flag, that's it. So if you now execute this application, basically if you write John, you can now see, if you once again, you will now see username already exists. So now guys, username exists, so it doesn't get added. So you need to write a different username, Kane. You can now see Gautam. You can now see guys, it is adding unique usernames. So if you want to add this username once again, you will now see the username already exists. So in this case guys, we are successfully validating it using the DOM manipulations. It's continue to stop statements. Now continue means that you are basically just continuing the loop. Break statement doesn't work in JavaScript loops, it only works in C++ Java loops. And now guys, if you see, each div element has got a unique ID attached to it. If you go to the inspect element, if you see, this says IDs John, Kane, Guptill, Anderson. Use find instead of for each. Find with return. So guys, if you're watching it for the very first time, guys, please hit the like button, subscribe the channel as well. So basically you can now see we are manipulating with the DOM here. We are able to basically add some records here. So now whenever we click on this item, guys, we need to basically, we can even say we can create an input field here basically. So create element, and we will be attaching a input field here. So input ID, and we can simply say the value of the input field. The value is equal to user. So here we can append the input field, and also we need to make it as read only. So we will simply say uh, or input dot set attribute, and it will be read only. So if you see, guys, if you say John, let me see. Basically, if a console basically will now see fail to execute set attribute on element arguments required. Read only, I think I need to pass true. So now you can see it can't be changed here. So this is the input field, guys, you will now see. And if you see Gautam, you will now see. If I change it to here Anderson, you can now see. So basically we are able to add these records, guys. Williamson. So this is read only, you can't change the values. Basically there needs to be a button also, guys. Basically whenever we click these buttons, we are able to delete this. So we need to attach the buttons as well. So please hit the like button, guys, if you're watching it for the very first time. I am seeing that people are not liking the content, only 5 likes are there, 10 people are watching the stream. So please hit the like button, subscribe the channel as well. So here, guys, we need to add a button as well. Basically for each input field we will also have a button. So we will have a button. So document.create element, which is button, and here we will simply say button.id. Button.id will be unique, which is user, and button.value, guys, will be simply delete, or you can simply customize this. We can simply say delete the user, which is passed here like this. So you can see that now we can even add the button as well. So document.body append child button. So that's it, guys. So basically we have attached the ID. So here we can remove this ID, which is to the input field like this. If I John, not the value, we need to say the inner HTML or inner text. We will say John. So you will see, if I click this button, guys, I need to change the value. I need to delete this button here. So similarly, if I type here Williamson Guptill, you will now see. So now we need to, if I hit these buttons, I need to remove this whole thing basically. So this will be the CRUD application we will be developing, guys. So we are able to create records, we are able to delete records. So now we need to basically, whenever we hit this functionality, whenever we hit the delete button. So guys, here we will be simply want to remove it. So we can simply also attach a button dot add event listener. So here we can simply pass the, when we hit this button, basically we will say alert what we can do is that basically we can say to that, we can simply say that you have hit hidden the user button. So if you now click the button, guys, so basically if you write here, so click, you have hidden the cane button. You will now see, if you now see Williamson, if you see like this. So now, guys, you will see we have attached the event listener as well, basically to each of the button here. So now what we need to do is that if I click these buttons out there, I need to remove this whole thing out there, which is one. So we, inside this, we can say that we need to remove the input. So what we can simply say, document dot, or we can simply say input dot, have you taken any courses or learned completely for free? No, I just watched the YouTube videos. Basically, I have taken some paid courses as well. There is a website called as Udemy Plural site, and also Team Treehouse. These are very professional websites which teach the topic in detail. So I learned some courses from here, these websites. There is also a called lynda.com as well. All these websites provide professional courses on all programming languages. So if you're interested, you can just learn it. Also YouTube as well. YouTube is full of videos if you want to learn programming or any topic. So I learned from these websites. So I think if you want to become a programmer and basically code any sort of application, first of all, your concept needs to be clear. So you can see button.add image listener. When we click this button, guys, we need to remove all these things. So what we can say is that we need to say document.body remove child, and here we will remove the child, which is button, sorry, input. So what we will say that, guys, basically we will say cane. Click. Now you can see that was deleted. And also, guys, we need to delete this button as well. So basically document.body.remove child button. That's it. Suggest me courses to learn and improve skills in Udemy or Plural site. Basically, I will definitely recommend you to first of all learn some basic JavaScript, basic HTML, CSS for specifically if you want to learn web development. If you want to learn Android development, if you want to go into mobile apps, so you need to learn first of all Java concept in detail. Java, Kotlin, Flutter as well. Basically, Google has made a real focus on Kotlin and Flutter. Java is still there, but still the modern era is starting to concentrate on Kotlin and Flutter. So basically, you need to. If I now write, guys, Kane here, basically, if I write here Gautam, so basically if I click this button, now you can see all the things were gone. You can now see we are able to perform this operation. And also, guys, when we delete from this, we also need to delete, basically we need to delete it from the this username array as well, used username. So what we can simply say is that basically here we will be uh, filtering out the array. So used username dot filter, and here we will be applying the filter. Basically what we will be saying, we will pass the username, which is called as the user, and here we will be filtering out the array. So we need to return, so here we will be having a if condition, if user is not equal to, if user is not equal to the past user. So here we can simply say username, support username. So here you can see we are using the filter method. Basically if user name is not equal to the user passed here, so it is saying that username So this needs to be right here like this. So what we can say is that we need to return all the elements which are, if basically if we need basically you can search it here, how to filter array in JavaScript. So basically you will find a code snippet basically on w3schools.com. So here we will be passing, so here we will return the username like this. That's it. So here, so basically we are having a condition here. Basically we are passing a username of this array here, which is containing all these usernames. So here we are passing a condition. If the username is not equal to the past user, in that case we need to filter out. Basically we are removing the username which is there inside this, from this array. So what will happen now, if you go to the application, basically if you type here John here, and if you type if you type delete this record, if you again type here John, so in this case the username already exists. So what will happen, let me see why it is username exists. So basically here you can see used username. Let me console log used username. If you just refresh it guys, basically what will happen now, if you write something here, let's suppose I write Kane Guptill, so you will see Kane Guptill is there. If you delete the Guptill button, you will now see, if you create record, Kane, if you hit this button, basically I think just remove this use usernames. We don't need to have a condition of that. Just push it like this. So if you do like this guys, basically used usernames are not defined. So Kane, if you see used username is not defined on line number 9. So 18 people are watching the stream guys, please hit the like button, subscribe the channel as well. So you can see that guys, basically we can create records, we can delete records, we can also read records like this. You can see we can delete records as well. Can you suggest some project topics for college in Stack? Basically, you can have many projects such as I am doing right here, DOM manipulation. You can do inside React.js as well. Try to create this create, read, update, delete kind of an applications. You can create a to-do kind of a app in React.js. You can create a social network clone, Facebook clone, Instagram clone, any website, popular website, you can create a clone of it, and which involves some database operations. Try to fetch some data from a REST API, use some HTTP clients object. So these are some of the standard projects that every programming language will support. So basically, if you're interested in learning any sort of programming language, you need to first of all display some data using loops. For each loop, try to use arrow functions, try to master those concepts before you can learn the most important concept in projects. So I will definitely recommend that you first of all build some projects which are interested. I see many people not concentrating on the basic projects and they are moving for advanced projects. Try to make some basic projects, something like this in plain JavaScript. First of all, try to do DOM manipulation, something like this that we are doing right here. So here we will remove this reference. So basically this delete operation is also working, guys. So what we need to do is that we also need to have a, so when we click inside this input field, guys, so we need to also update the value as well here. So what we can say is that basically we can even attach a attribute to it, to this input field, which is input dot set attribute. We can add a disabled attribute which is called as true. If you do this, so now this will be disabled. You will now see it is disabled by default. And now we can even have a another button. Yeah, I got your point. Thanks for suggestion. So basically we can have a another button here which will be for update button. We can create a element here basically, which is again a button, and basically we can attach a ID to it. Once again, this will be the ID user, and the inner text will be equal to update user. Update button, update button. And lastly, we also need to add this append child update button. So if you refresh it now, basically your application, now you will see two buttons out there. First for delete, and secondly for the update. If you click this update button, guys, you need to remove this disabled attribute. So we will be attaching a event listener to it. So basically we will be saying here update button dot add event listener. When we click this button, basically, so here we will be basically removing the attribute input dot set attribute. We will set this attribute disable to false. So if you do this, guys, now if you see, if you click this button update, so So if you see, the disabled attribute is set to true. So now, sorry, so here we can simply say how to undisable input field. There is a method, guys. Let me just search it for enable and disable input field. So for enabling it, I think you can make this disabled to false. So if you do this, so now you can see it is undisabled. You can, and also basically we also need to remove this read only. If you see, we have a read only attribute which is attached to it. It is input field here. If you see, so read only, if you see, guys, so we also need to set this read only to be false. So just set this. So now if you click update, you will be able to, so what happens, let me see, read only to false. So now you will be able to update this, guys. So whenever now we are changing this value, so what we need to do is that, so inside this we can simply say we need to change the value of input dot value. So whatever is the value which is typed here, so here we can simply basically we can attach a on change to this input field, input dot on change. If we can attach this function, so basically the value here will be equal to, we can initialize the user, we can change the user to whatever value which is changed. So input dot value, that's it, input dot value. So now we can simply attach input dot value to be user. So now if you see, guys, basically click, if you want to change the value to Kane, click again update. So you will see, so here, guys, we will first of all check here. Basically inside this if condition that if input dot disabled is false. In this case we will simply make the input disabled to true. We will make the read only to also true. That's it. So if you now see, and if I click update, if I change the value and click it for the second time, so what happens? Let me see. Hi sir, I am new here, so please hit the like button if you are new to the channel. I basically do these live streams daily related to programming and JavaScript. If you are new to the channel, please hit that like button, subscribe the channel as well. You can put this else here like this. Put it to the else block. If you put a values here, so if you see, we need to update Kane, and we will simply change it to Guptil and click on update. You will now see the value is changed here. You can now see. If you want to delete it, you can even delete it. If you want to update the value, you can update Williamson like this. Again, want to change it, change it. So you can see that. Create a new record. If you want to delete it, you can even delete it. So these are the 4 operations, guys, we have performed here, which is create, read, update, delete. Delete update button is also working here. You will see that. If you now click the delete button, it will be deleted entirely. You can even create records. Delete, 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 delete. So if you're watching it for the very first time, guys, then please hit the like button, subscribe the channel as well. I'm seeing that people are not liking the content, only 12 likes are there. So just hit the like button, subscribe the channel as well if you're watching it for the very first time. So in this way, guys, you can develop this application. Basically, this is the DOM manipulation I was talking about, these 4 operations. If you want to create records, delete records, update records in JavaScript. We are not using any sort of external library such as jQuery. It is all happening in plain vanilla JavaScript. We have the simple form. You can see that we have used different kinds of methods here, which is we have attached the events handlers dynamically. We have also used this on change event handler. We have used these set attribute method to set the attribute of a button. So if you have any sort of questions, guys, you can ask in the comment section. And let me also, which is your favorite programming language? So basically, if you want to say PHP, C hash, Python or JavaScript, you can participate inside this poll, guys. Let me just tell which is your favorite programming language. So I think JavaScript will win here because JavaScript, I think it's a very popular language when it comes to programming. Many developers are increasing for JavaScript. I think PHP is very old language. Nobody uses PHP at this moment of time. The developers of PHP are very less as compared to Python and JavaScript. C hash is also very low. It is only for Windows applications as compared to the other languages. So if you have any sort of doubt, guys, you can ask in the comment section. So here we have looked at different events out there inside JavaScript. Basically, these events are very much useful. So if you see, guys, here basically this is the DOM manipulation we have talked about. Input value, set attribute, read only. So if you have any sort of questions, guys, you can ask in the comment section. I will try to answer the questions if you basically have the questions. It's not old. You probably didn't hear about Laravel. Laravel. I know the frameworks Codinactor, or Laravel, but as a language, PHP is lagging behind as compared to other languages. Basically, if you are building a very small size application, probably you will not use Laravel or a big framework. So for a medium size application, for a large size application, you will use Laravel or any sort of framework. But as for a small application, PHP is not suitable. JavaScript is suitable for small size application. Callback function is something basically callback functions are the functions basically whenever you perform any sort of operation. Basically, let me explain you inside the code. So just see, if you let me just perform an operation which is, let me take an example here. So let's suppose we have a function which we are calling, which contains two parameters, which is it takes two parameters and basically it returns out the result a plus b. This is our function which is add. Now when we call this function, basically here you will be passing a comma b, and also here we will also pass another function here. Basically this is called a callback function. So here we can pass a alert statement that hi, your numbers has been added. So now this callback function will be passed it as a parameter, the third parameter, like this. So here we can execute this function. First of all, just put callback. So now if you basically execute this now, what will happen now? If you now put the numbers here, which is 3 4, basically so So here we will simply say uh, the result will be console log. We can simply console log as well, which is a plus b. So if you simply check the browser, uh, so you will see hi, your numbers has been added. You can see now this callback function is executing it. We have passed it as an argument, and in the console you will see 7 printed out. You can now see. So callback functions are nothing but whenever you're calling a function, you can even pass functions as an argument. So this is called as callback functions. You can even pass functions as variables inside an argument. So this is called as callback functions. And coming up back to the PHP thing, guys, I totally disagree. Most of the developers don't use PHP at this moment of time. They are more interested in Node.js, Express, React.js, Angular. All these modern technologies are. Victorus is saying that he disagrees. We use it because it is stable and it has a big community. No doubt about it, Laravel has a big community, but still PHP as a basic language. Laravel is their framework, it is not the language. PHP is a very tough language if you are a beginner. You can't be uh, getting the concepts of all the PHP language. A simple file upload is so much difficult as compared to Node.js inside PHP. The syntax is so difficult to master out, and we can't write the syntax. So as compared to the learning curve and the syntax, and PHP is very much difficult. So, but in Node.js, JavaScript, PHP is a basic language, so is JavaScript. PHP is probably the easiest as it compares more to C. Do we need to store our questions first in our database? Which questions? Which questions you're talking about? I don't think so that the jobs are very much easier when PHP is there as your resume. I think the reverse is true. If you have master, if you have mastered the concept of Node.js, if you have mastered the concept of Node.js, definitely I see a lot more jobs available to you. I was asking about can we use Node.js and MongoDB for quiz web application regarding that. Do we need to store our questions first in database? No, you can also create the questions and insert it to database in the application itself. Basically, we can have a form, HTML form. You can submit your quiz questions in that form. Basically, we can have a simple HTML form. You can submit the questions by clicking a button. So when we click the button, we can insert the data in the MongoDB database. So you don't need to manually insert the questions. Let's say you have a requirement of Perl, and if someone learn Perl today, they will surely get the job easier if they apply for it. Perl is a totally different language. It totally is a scripting language, and I don't think so Perl is so much popular in the job industry. To be very honest, I don't know about Perl. What is Perl? So I I know it's a scripting language, but I haven't used it anywhere in my life. It's a scripting language, yeah, I know it, but I haven't used it at all. So I don't think so languages plays a very important role. Every individual has its own choice. Basically, some will like PHP, some will hate PHP. Totally depends upon the individual. So whichever language you like. Flutter, I think it's a very popular language. You should definitely invest some time in learning Flutter. And basically, it is backed by Google. Google has released Flutter, so obviously, some bright future will be there for Flutter. Many developers are there. If we click the submit button for the submission of the quiz, then it checks for the answer in database. How can we achieve this through Node and MongoDB? Basically, you will have a condition in which you will be putting MCQ, which is multiple choice questions. You will have four choices. Basically, you will just compare the choices. Basically, if user select, let's suppose number B choice, you will simply select with a select operation if the answer is correct or not. Filter is not a language. Flutter is not a language, it's a framework. The underlying language is Dart. Yeah, I know, but Flutter was released by Google. So, yeah, it is a framework. My bad. So, it is a framework. Basically, it is backed by Google, as React is backed by Facebook. So, in the near future, Flutter will become a very big thing. So, it's very wise that you learn Flutter. Angular is its and worth in the future. Definitely, Angular, React, Vue.js, all these frameworks are a very worth in future. You can't neglect any of these three frameworks. And also Next.js as well. Next.js, Gatsby, all these frameworks are very much popular among the developers. And if you want to create a static website, Gatsby is the most popular framework to create this. Yeah, Angular is quite a big framework. And if you want to develop a huge application, huge enterprise application, yeah, it is only, I think it is used to develop big applications. If you just want a small scale application, you will not use Angular. Basically, it has routing built into it. forms as well. So I think it's a pretty big framework. And for shorter applications, you don't use Angular. Kotlin is also having a very bright future. Dart, Flutter, Kotlin, all these languages. Uh, Gatsby is almost dead now. They did some much wrong, like why I am supposed to learn GraphQL for fetching static data. I think Next.js made it absolute after they introduced static side server side rendering. But people are building Gatsby videos and they are getting a huge support, huge views. I don't think so Gatsby is dead. I certainly think that Gatsby is still the language for static site generation. GraphQL is also very famous database. Basically, you should definitely invest time in learning GraphQL. Yes, MNCs mostly use Angular. Startup is used to use is used in React.js. So basically for Flutter, yeah, Dart and Kotlin. These are the two languages. I think you can easily master JavaScript. It is not a very big deal. Just you need to develop some basic projects such as CRUD application, try to interact with database, try to call REST API, try to do form validation, DOM manipulation, all these things. I think the most obvious thing that keep other from using Angular is that Angular uses TypeScript. But you have to learn all sorts of software design palindrome like dependency injection to work with it. But on the other hand, Angular is so much popular. Basically, services of their dependency injection, all these concepts, and TypeScript makes it very much easy for handling the errors. TypeScript, as you all know, is the superset of JavaScript. It also has a nice features which is also called as type checking. So basically, if you make a mistake, it will give you error at that time. But JavaScript doesn't have that support built in. I think JavaScript is bad for error handling. You can't handle the errors all the time, but TypeScript makes it very much easy. So you can't say that TypeScript is very bad or these concepts are not good. I think Angular is made for those applications which are very much big applications where the error handling needs to be there. TypeScript is literally a bless. I'm still trying to master it. There's a lot of to learn. Yeah, it is a little bit difficult, but when you master it, you become a professional programmer. Basically, it's strictly based on types. So at the time of declaring a variable, you need to tell whether it is a string, variable, integer. So in JavaScript, you can declare variables without specifying the type. So that's the major difference. So